Hey everybody. Um, I had the sudden inclination to start a series for my own benefit primarily, um, and you never know who else it might benefit. So um, I think just to keep me um, consistent with just tracking my progress in mindfulness and meditation. Um, I've been dabbling in mindfulness for about 11 years now. I was first introduced to it in acting school because I wanted to be Mr. Famous Director, Actor, yada, yada, yada. Um, I still love theater and acting and everything, and, get involved in it where I can. Um, but that's neither here nor there. But lately, I'd been really struggling with depression. Just this, kind of overwhelming ennui, as the French say. Um, yeah, just I think the biggest elements of it were um, a lack of energy. Just getting to the end of. I'm working at a health food slash vitamins store, like a 30-year-old hippie wannabe does, and I can barely get to the end of 30-hour week, and I'm depleted. I have I got no juice left, and that's been feeling unsustainable. And then the other big factor has been the rumination, just feeling like these thoughts are just cycling, 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 cycling. And I've been to a lot of therapy, been to uh, I've tried medication before and was really seriously considering medication this time as well. Um, and I might still, consider that avenue. Um, but I remembered, times that I had spent practicing meditation consistently, feeling not quite like this or how I had been feeling. I just got done with like an hour-long meditation, which is not how long I meditate for, but I feel so much better. Um, and I, had maybe been meditating on and off over the last month or so, maybe an hour a week total, and so I'm trying to develop that because I was doing a lot of ruminating today that was leading me on different different rabbit holes on the internet, trying to dig up, what are people's experience and what has helped people. And I ended up finding this monk. Let me see if I can. His name is this Buddhist monk, Idan Topaz, and he shared a very powerful testimony, and I can link it in yon description below, of how he struggled with depression his whole life, really, from the age of 13, and then became a monk in Thailand, and you could just see this guy just radiates positivity. Like, it just doesn't seem like really anything could disturb him or depress him at this point. Of course, sadness comes and sadness goes. And so I was, inspired by that to revisit meditation. And I looked back into this book called Altered Traits, that's by two researchers that have been looking into mindfulness for the longest time. And the chapter that I stumbled across was called The Lightness of Being. And it was specifically addressing rumination. And the way it described it was that the brain's structure, when we're involved in a task, there's certain areas that are firing, certain neurons, subregions of the brain. I don't know the name of all of these, but they're, we're absorbed in the thing. We're in like a flow state. If you're whatever it is you're doing. For me, playing piano, I go into kind of that flow state. And yet I noticed that while playing piano, there's still part of my brain that's thinking about, how does this sound to other people? And what are people going to think once this song sounds really good? And what about that thing that person said to me 18 months ago that has nothing to do with the present moment right now? So just these, thoughts that kind of, even while I'm absorbed in a task, are taking me out of that task, and then I, mess up or whatever. But while we are absorbed in a task, those regions are firing. And then when we're not absorbed in the task and we're just, going about our day or doing a task that's less, absorbing, like washing the dishes, your mind can kind of wander a lot more while you're doing that. And what's called the default mode network then switches on, which it seems to be the areas of the brain. I learned a couple of these. The posterior cingulate cortex, and I think the medial prefrontal lobe, something like that. Mr. Science, that's me. They switch on, and it's basically the sections of your brain that are just thinking about you and you as an entity in the world, moving about in the world, just being a being, and all of that is imaginary. Like the only thing that really concretely exists is like physical matter in the given present moment, which we can't even observe because quantum mechanics. As soon as you observe something, you change it. So we never have a really strong foothold on reality. Everything is constructed, and our brains are part of what do that job. But as we go about our daily lives, distracted by a million different thoughts about ourselves and about others and our relationship to the world, it can become so, from my experience, that default mode network becomes so murky and bleh, that I just lose all energy. I think that's where my energy just dissipates in a freaking bajillion different directions. And so meditation helps me. I think that and I've been meditating for a long time, kind of trying to see what exactly is going on here. What is it that I'm doing? Why am I just sitting here with my hands folded, with usually not this good of posture? Eventually I start slumping. What am I doing? And what it seems like the answer to that question is training my brain to, when I'm not involved in a task that's already just absorbing, training my brain to move back out of that default mode network that's just thinking about me and all the shitty things that are happening to me, and that brings it back into the concrete, into the present moment, into reality, or as close as we can get to it. And in doing that, there's just this like lightening that everything, all of the stuff that was swirling around in that default mode network suddenly just doesn't feel as sticky or as heavy. Doesn't really feel like it matters at all anymore. And yet it was so heavy just like 2 hours ago before I meditated. I was like, I wasn't in this state of just kind of like, NBD. It all felt like a very big deal. So, yeah, I think that, meditation, I've often felt like, I haven't really practiced this, but I've often felt like it's just this baseline of like you give yourself that boost of being able to stay grounded and connected to the present, and to be able to direct one's attention, because like that is so huge, because like no matter what else I can do in the world, talents I develop or skills or whatever gets added to my resume, if I can't direct my attention, I'm not very useful. And it seems like I can control really two things about my experience in this world. I can control my reaction to things. Moment of honesty today, I struggle with dependency on cannabis, which has plagued me for a long time. And today I was like, I gotta go pick some of that sweet, sweet Mary Jane. And on the way there, like I was literally walking up to the store and I just veered away. I was like, I can't keep doing that. That's gonna keep me tripping over myself. So that was a big realization for me. Like, I can always control my reaction. I can't control necessarily how I feel, or like that immediate like reactivity inside. I can't, it's like just trying to force it down or pretend like it's not there. You gotta feel your feelings. I gotta feel my feelings. But I can still control what I do with those feelings, so there's that. And I feel like I'm probably going to get into talking about, because mindfulness is everything. And I feel like that's why it's everywhere. All we see everywhere is mindfulness. In all these magazines, everybody, it feels like here's yet another person on YouTube telling you about mindfulness. Just what the doctor ordered. And a lot of them don't know what they're talking about, but it's, it appeals to people because it is helping people, and it's becoming like this lucrative industry kind of thing. That part, that's just capitalism. It just does that to literally everything. Nothing is sacred. Anyways, back to my point. I can control my reactions to things, and if I practice, I can control what I focus on. And if I can, if I can go about my day, noticing when my mind is kind of just doing that thing of like, I'm no good, this all sucks, the world is ending, I want to get out of this body. That if I practice the mindfulness practice, then I can get relief from that, and it's real relief. It's not, it's not like kind of putting a Band-Aid over it and being like, everything's fine. It's like going deep to the roots of the wound itself and being like, here I am in the present moment, in the here and now. What can I do here, with just this? So my meditation today, you know, there was some challenge. Getting through an hour felt at times, impossible. I also have, or my parents have 2 dogs that we all love very much, and I'm watching the house for them right now. For my parents, and they come in and pester me every now and then. I can live with that. But my meditation, I had dabbled a little bit in this thing called non-directional meditation, which is kind of like blossomed out of transcendental meditation, it seems, where it's like you just sit. You sit and you're just aware, which it seems to me like these words, the definitions always, everything keeps shifting around. My definition of mindfulness is just like an approach to awareness of recognizing that you are aware and that you can be aware of the present moment. And that kind of becomes just this like loose term, whereas there are different forms of meditation where it's like I can meditate on a word, I can meditate on a candle, I can meditate on scripture, I can meditate on my breath, I can meditate on a body scan, going head to toe. I can meditate on a full body awareness. I can meditate on a triangle that I've envisioned in my mind. And I can approach all of those in an infinity of different ways. So mindfulness itself just seems like this catch-all term that's like realizing the possibilities of our awareness. And then a mindfulness meditation seems to have the definition of like just being aware of the present moment of what's going on. But that's still kind of directional in the sense that you're telling yourself to stay in the present moment. And then non-directional meditation is like just sit with your eyes closed and, what happens. But I think that misses out, and why I wasn't really feeling the fruits of that was that it misses out on the moving away from the default mode network in the brain. Like it ignores the concrete reality of what's happening in the brain. And I reject that. I sentenced that to 42 years in a penitentiary. No, it's fine. I think that may be a continued part of my mindfulness practice in general. But man, just that, going back to the basics so my first like 10 minutes or so of the meditation were coming back to kind of like right here, the solar plexus, which my dad told me is actually not a technical medical term. Sorry to say, because I really love that term. Turns out it's not real, but what is real? But that was kind of where my attention was, and it was a good place to like be aware of your breath, because that is kind of always doing something. And then when I got bored with that, I went into a body scan, and then that probably lasted a good 25 minutes, and then I went full body, and then my dogs came in, and it's really hard to ignore and not, pet them. I guess they became part of my meditation. And then towards the end, I started getting a little bit like, okay, is this almost over? I mean, it's an hour. It's kind of a long time. But the more I practice, the more I train to be able to sit for, it feels like it stops feeling like so long. I mean, when I first started, I could get nowhere near. I could get 3 minutes if I was lucky. And then towards the end of it, I, just did like feeling just my breath in general, just wherever I felt my breath. And then into like kind of a seated shavasana of like just, you know, kind of non-directional, kind of went non-directional towards those last few minutes of, how am I now? Has something changed? Definitely felt like something had changed. Like my thoughts didn't feel like this heaviness that they had been, because I ain't perfect. I've done some stuff that I'm not proud of. I'm in a place right now in my life. I'm 31 years old and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm broke as a joke, and I'm just like, nothing appeals really, like no career or pursuit. Think about teaching, whatever, all that is to say, it all felt very heavy. And after that time of, moving away from the default mode network, it just I just started feeling this there it is, yeah. So I'm hoping to keep posting some, Monday night mindfulness videos. And I don't know if anybody is going to watch them. And that's, I imagine a few people might stumble across it, find it useful or thought-provoking, or, fodder for a internet argument, those are always fun. But I just want to see, kind of track what happens with this kind of malaise that I've been feeling of like, I cannot deal with life. Just see where that goes. Would love to hear people's thoughts about their mindfulness practice, about where they're at, how it has or hasn't helped. Because it's hard to just make any generalizations about it, which frustrates me. You see that a lot on the internet of meditation cures all ills, but it's the first times that you sit down with your mind, for a lot of people that can be the first time that they've ever just been. And that can be a kind of a scary thing. And then again, it's become financial, it's become a buzzword, mindfulness. We need mindful super soldiers. They train people in mindfulness in the military, because if you can focus for a really long time, you can be very effective at maybe some ethically questionable pursuits. Not casting judgment. Not everybody or every military operation is wrong or bad or whatever. It's just, it's not as straightforward as I wish it was. So yeah, it's do you become mindful and, do you become a mindful mega billionaire that's extracting all the resources of the planet, it's almost become a civil religion. I can't cast judgment on that. That's just a development, that's just a phenomenon, just like all the other phenomenon. I'm gonna get sued by Sesame Street or something. Anyways, that's perfect. I'll try and keep these videos under 25 minutes, because your boy can ramble. Deuces.